Graders, we're going to start our lesson 7 called The Blunt Truth, and it's titled Effects of THC and Marijuana. So today we're going to be talking about a drug called marijuana. This drug comes from a plant containing a psychoactive and mind-altering chemical called THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol. So today in our lesson, we are going to be discussing and focusing on the recreational use of marijuana. Recreational use means the use of the drug for the purpose of getting high, not to treat an illness. So you may have seen in the news and in stores and on the internet what is called CBD oil or CBD gummies. And this is, CBD is a cannabinoid found in marijuana, and it's been shown to have some health benefits, but unlike the THC, the CBD does not make people high. Okay, so there's no THC in most of those products. It may be useful, okay, the CBD oil or the CBD may be useful in reducing pain and inflammation and controlling epileptic seizures. So medical marijuana typically has higher levels of CBD and low levels of THC. So when people take it, they do not feel high. But again, medical marijuana and CBD is all regulated, and it's dispensed through a doctor. Okay, so today we're going to be focusing on the recreational use. So that means the illegal use and for the purpose of getting high. What do you know about marijuana? So you get your information about this drug. You might get your information from the people around you, from television shows, from music videos, movies, video games, the news. So you may believe you know all there is to know about marijuana. So let's make sure your perception matches the facts. Okay, so we are going to go through a series of statements, and we are going to determine whether the statement is the truth or is it a fact. So is it a myth or is it a fact? So as I go through each slide, I want you to, when I read the statement, I want you to think in your mind whether this is a myth or a fact, and then we will go over it. Okay, so let's test your knowledge. So Sam watched a movie and determined that because the movie stars smoked marijuana on screen, it must be real. So true or false, marijuana use portrayed in movies is real marijuana. Okay, I'll give you a second to think. Okay, if you said false, you are correct. So just as an employee would be fired for drinking on the job, actors can't not perform their job under the influence of marijuana. So Hollywood spends a lot of money making fake dinosaurs and aliens look real. They do the same with marijuana. So media is not reality. Okay, so think about it. Recreational use is still illegal at the federal level. So allowing actors to be high on set is a liability for the studio. And being high would interfere with the actor's ability to perform. Okay, so they are acting. Okay, so let's try another one. Raquel thought that using marijuana would help her concentrate and do better in school. True or false? Marijuana use improves concentration and academic performance. Okay, I'm sure you all said false. Marijuana use in adolescents or teens is associated with altered brain development, a decline in cognitive function, and poor academic performance. So teens who use marijuana perform worse on problem-solving tests than non-users. And there's been case studies that have consistently found deficits in verbal learning, recall, and attention in regular marijuana users. After smoking a joint, Max zoned out on the couch. His teammates texted him to come to practice for the big game on Saturday, but Max didn't want to make the effort. Okay, so true or false? Marijuana makes users less motivated. Okay, so that is true. Good job. A lack of motivation, it's also called amotivational syndrome. So marijuana use causes users to lose interest in activities in their school, in their work, their personal hygiene, and life in general. So Michelle pressured her friend Monica to get high with her. Michelle said, "Come on, Monica, marijuana is natural, so it is harmless." So true or false? Marijuana is safe because it is natural. Okay, so really think about that question. Marijuana is safe because it is natural. Okay, so hopefully you said false. So marijuana is natural in that it comes from a plant, okay, but many drugs are derived from natural plants. Okay, so for example, tobacco comes from the tobacco plant, cocaine comes from the coca plant, and heroin comes from the poppy plant. Okay, that's in the middle here. There's the poppy plant. All of these plants are natural, but the drugs derived from them are not safe. So at a local middle school, police confiscated a stash of marijuana from someone's locker. The forensics lab determined the marijuana was laced with numerous chemical substances. So true or false? When people buy marijuana, the marijuana is always pure and contains no other substances. Okay, so this is false. Marijuana growers and dealers often secretly lace the drug with other substances, including bug spray, cocaine, methamphetamines, and fentanyl. They do this to produce varied psychoactive effects and to make people become more addicted, which makes them want to buy more. And these can be deadly. Sean knows that a girl he likes will be at tonight's party. He decides to impress her with his charm and wit. Unfortunately, he got high before the party and couldn't remember his jokes and made a fool of himself instead. So true or false? Marijuana makes users forgetful. This is true. The mind-altering substance in marijuana called THC, remember we talked about that earlier, the THC connects to receptors in the brain that affect memory. So during the high and for weeks afterward, the user will have difficulty recalling information stored in their short-term memory. Mariah pressured Nolan to get high with her. She said, "Come on, it's no big deal. It's not like weed is addictive." So true or false? Marijuana is not addictive. Okay, the statement is false. So addiction, if you remember when we talked about addiction, it can be physical, so your body can be chemically dependent on it, and it can be psychological, so it's more of an emotional attachment or addiction. So occasional users may not yet be chemically dependent on marijuana, but psychologically they feel like they need to be high. Chronic or everyday users, however, will develop a chemical dependency to THC, and chronic users experience withdrawal symptoms if they are not high. So if in treatment centers, most teenagers are there for alcohol and marijuana addiction. Felicia's older sister Laura was driving her and her friend to a movie. As they were getting into the car, Laura admitted that she was high on marijuana, but said she was fine to drive. True or false? Marijuana does not affect one's ability to drive a car safely. Okay, so this is false. So marijuana use impairs driving performance, including someone's reaction time, their depth perception, their concentration, and coordination. So Roman had to quit the track team because he couldn't run the 500-meter event as easily as he once could. He has trouble breathing, is short of breath, and suffers from a chronic cough. He didn't think that smoking marijuana would affect his lungs. So true or false, marijuana smoke causes breathing problems. Okay, this is true. So smoke is smoke whether it comes from tobacco, marijuana, or a burning building. So smoke in the lungs can cause respiratory problems, breathing problems. So inhaling any chemicals, whether smoked, vaped, or dabbed, which is a heated oil concentrate, is very harmful and can aggravate asthma and cause bronchial spasms. Marie wanted to lose weight, so she started smoking marijuana because she heard marijuana suppresses the appetite. True or false? Marijuana suppresses the appetite. Suppresses means withdrawals or holds back. Okay, so this is false. So the THC, which is the mind-altering substance in marijuana, will increase the appetite, leading to what they call the munchies. Okay, this increase in the appetite can result in weight gain, definitely not weight loss. Okay, so while CBD, that we talked about before, found in marijuana acts as an appetite suppressant, the higher concentrations of the THC cancel out any appetite suppression effect. Okay. True or false? Marijuana contains a mind-altering substance which can cause brain damage. Okay, and you can see it here on the slide. Okay, so yes, that's true. Marijuana use, like alcohol use, impairs the brain. The teenage brain, remember, is still developing, and the impairment caused by marijuana will damage a brain that is still under construction. Hannah was feeling nervous about an upcoming drama audition. Her friend encouraged her to get high to relax. Hannah did get high, and her heart began beating faster. So true or false? Marijuana slows the heart rate. Okay, so this is false. While the THC in the marijuana impairs brain activity, it accelerates the heart rate for up to 3 hours after use. So the increased heart rate can make a person feel more anxious and paranoid, and can put the user at a greater risk of having a heart attack. Okay, so Josie used to be the best gymnast on the balance beam. Since using marijuana, she has trouble with coordination and balance while practicing her routine. So, true or false? Balance and coordination are not affected by marijuana use. Okay, this is false. So THC, the mind-altering substance in marijuana, blocks the brain receptors that regulate concentration, coordination, and balance. And if you remember, we talked about also blocks the part of your brain that controls your memory. Okay, so Raymond got high on marijuana before going to Friday night's football game. While walking to the game, he felt like he was being followed. He kept looking behind him and darting behind bushes to hide. He believed that someone was going to attack him. So, true or false? Marijuana use causes paranoia. So this is true. So THC causes paranoid thoughts. The THC causes the emotional areas of the brain to go on high alert. So when a person is high on THC, everyday events are more likely to be processed as maybe threatening or dangerous, contributing to the fear that drives paranoia. Okay, so Joey keeps getting colds and has a hard time getting rid of them. So true or false? Marijuana affects the immune system. Okay, so this is true. So it says here that a group of California scientists examined 450 people who did not smoke tobacco products, but who did smoke marijuana every day. They found that these marijuana smokers had more sick days and more doctor visits for respiratory problems and other illnesses than did a group of people who did not smoke at all. Okay, so you do something that's not good for your body, it's going to affect your immune system in a negative way. Okay, so the last one. All right, after getting high at a friend's house, Marcus got in the car to drive home. He saw the traffic light turn red, but he could not stop in time. He was arrested for driving under the influence, DUI. Okay, so true or false? Is it possible to get a DUI while high on marijuana? Okay, and this is true. So researchers in one Tennessee study found that when police tested 150 reckless drivers for drugs at the arrest scene, 33% tested positive for marijuana. So marijuana causes the same lack of coordination as alcohol. So police issue DUIs when someone is driving under the influence of any mind-altering substance, not just alcohol. So how did you do? Were some of you surprised at some of those answers? So sometimes the things that we hear, if we hear them over and over, even if they're not true, we might start to believe them. So it's really important to make sure that you have the facts, okay, and that you have reliable sources. So the facts and the data that we just learned here from that activity they come from a reliable source, okay? So a good example of a reliable source would be NIDA, which is the National Institute on Drug Abuse. But you can be assured that the facts that we just talked about all came from reliable sources. Okay, so unreliable source would be a source that offers personal opinions or interpretations about a subject based on an assumption or a rumor. So it's really hard these days, even in the news, to know what is a reliable source. So just make sure that you are getting your information from these reliable sources, such as NIDA. That is a very good, reliable source. So let's take a look at what the THC, which is, remember, the part of the drug marijuana, the psychoactive substance responsible for making users get high. Let's see what the THC does to the teenage brain. Okay, so you can see here the picture on the slide, and these scans illustrate levels of brain activity just like the scans we looked at in the alcohol lesson. So these scans, however, view the underside of the brain. You can tell which one is the active, healthy brain, and it says here the healthy on the left, and which one is not active because of marijuana use. Okay, so the age 18 daily user, you can see there's a big difference in this scan. The presence of THC in the brain reduces or stops brain activity. So the holes that you see here in the scan they're not actually holes in the brain, but they're damaged cells or cells that have no activity. Okay, so you can see that's quite significant, the difference. THC causes a person's brain to work harder to complete normal everyday tasks. So the impaired brain cannot react as quickly or process information at a normal rate because the THC is blocking the receptors in the brain. So let's take a closer look at how marijuana use could affect a person's ability to reach their goals. So think about someone whose goal may be to improve at football. Okay, so think about what the effects of marijuana can do to your body and how that could affect you reaching your goals. So someone with a lack of motivation could keep them from practicing and improving their game, maybe not going to practice, not trying as hard. Shortness of breath, remember that affects your respiratory system. That could slow them down on the field, not be able to run as fast for as long of a period of time. Think about the slowed reaction time, so that effect that could keep them from catching a pass, or maybe even throwing a pass or throwing the ball in a quickly manner. Loss of depth perception could affect the ability to track the ball, okay, in the play. Not know where and how to catch it at the right moment, right placement. And bad judgment could cause him to make a bad play. Okay, so those are all ways that marijuana could affect someone in their goal to try to improve at football. Okay, and make it so that it's hard to reach that goal. Another example, think about someone maybe their goal is to get and keep a part-time job. Okay, so maybe, so some of the effects of marijuana might be lying. Okay, so she's lying to hide her marijuana habit. That would make her more unreliable, and appear untrustworthy to a potential employer. A lack of concentration means she could make mistakes when giving change or giving out information. Okay, red eyes. Okay, people who smoke might have bloodshot eyes. That could be a giveaway that she uses marijuana, which could result in a drug test. Okay, which would result in being fired. Memory problems. She could make her forget how to complete a task. Okay, and irritability. Okay, if someone's irritable, it could cause friction with your coworkers or maybe even your boss, which could lead to also being fired. So I want you just to take a moment, think about the goals that we've made together, or the goals that you've made on your own, and think about how that goal could be interrupted if you made a choice, or how marijuana use could affect you from reaching your goals. Okay, so the legal status of marijuana is the subject of ongoing debate. I'm sure you've heard and seen things in the news and on the internet, and heard talk of people around you. But it is a federal offense. So on the federal level, it's a federal offense and illegal still to purchase, grow, carry, or use marijuana because of the harm it can cause. However, scientists have discovered some of the effects of CBD, which we talked about earlier, and low-level amounts of THC that can be useful in preventing and treating certain medical conditions. So because of that, in some states, marijuana use and limited possession is permitted under the guidance of a licensed medical professional and dispensed from an approved and regulated dispensary. Okay, it's not off the streets. Okay, so it's very, very regulated. So while it is still a federal offense, some states allow recreational use of marijuana, but just like alcohol, it is not legal for people under the age of 21 to use. So even if marijuana was completely legal for recreational use, it still isn't something safe to put into your body, especially under the age of 21 when your brain is still developing. So just like nicotine and alcohol, the risks of marijuana use are significant and the harm to your body is real. So because of the harmful effects that drugs can have on your body, deciding to be drug-free will help you accomplish the things that you set out to do in life. And that's why we're here talking to you. We don't want things to get in the way of you reaching your goals. Okay, so make good decisions to choose to be drug-free to help you reach your goals and accomplish things in life.